So two teens, Florida, yes, two teens. That's not the judge, Florida. No, it's not. Two teens had plotted to kill 9 people, as in they were going to gain access to guns, kill the individuals, and then dispose of the bodies. Teens, how does that happen? Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things, combine them, make them into one. How does two teens plan to kill 9 people? First off, there's a questioning before I go into the story. There's a questioning process with that, as in it should come later, but I'm going to ask in the beginning before I go into the story. First off, I want to know the motive. What would be the motive of teens? Wouldn't teens have anything better to do than to plot and kill random innocent people? Not only that, the background of each teen and who influenced their actions, motives, and why. And which individual, there was in fact 2 individuals in this plotting, planning process. Who was the ringleader of both individuals? And when it comes to the age, how did they think that they were going to pull off such a grand maneuver? Isn't that almost that let me let that go. Where were they going to dispose of the bodies and location after killing 9 people? All this would in fact be questioned once again after, and yet I'm questioning it before. Yes, the skillful maneuver. How do you, at that age, let me just get into the story. We'll come back to this. So, a Florida teacher discovered 2 teens at Avalon Park Middle School planned to kill 9 people, as reported by the sheriff's office. The intention of the students was to aim and harm as many off campus. As many. To say as many could mean more than 9 individuals with that. Ponder that. Highland County School Board confirmed in a statement the students were taken into custody but didn't offer any information because of an ongoing investigation. The 2 teens were hysterical while searching within the classroom for a folder which included their plans of murder. The reason for the students acting hysterical is because they felt and feared they would more than likely be arrested or go to jail. That's usually how it happens, doesn't it? That's why they were hysterical, because they felt that their written plan would in fact be found out. So the teacher, as they were being all hysterical and it wasn't an act, right? The teacher in fact overheard them, because as they were, the 2 students, as they were searching for the photos, or not the photo, the folder. I'm sorry, I just looked at her photo. As they were, the 2 students searching around for the folder. I'm sorry, why is my words fumbling? Tongue-tied. That's an inflection in a sense. Let me bend that back. Searching for their own folder. That's why they were hysterical. But the teacher, once that was going on, she overheard one of them say that they were going to say that it was a prank. That wasn't their plans along the way, or something, as they were talking. To say, so these teens nowadays seem masterful. That ain't even a word, and yet maybe it is. I make up my own wording on the spot. But that's almost like, yes, like at a master level, to be just thinking, well, we will say that it was a prank. That's what the teacher overheard them saying, that their plots and plan to kill 9 people, they were going to say that it was a prank to prevent them from going to jail. There's no laughing matter in that, and yet it is in fact questionable, right? So The teacher found the folder with the letter written in it by the two students, which mentioned guns, right? That's in fact in their police report. Should be, right? They shouldn't be anywhere else than where they are, right? That's not the past judgment, and yet it is. Many could have died, is what I'm trying to say, and possibly more than 9 people. Because to think that far ahead is to say, well, we can plot and plan to kill 9 individuals, but how many more can we, in fact, get away with in killing? Helps to think about mass murder and the rest beyond that, right? So the folder contained the folder contained 8 pieces of paper full of their plans of the guns, murder, and disposal of bodies, in which I mentioned before. 8 pieces of paper. Not one. This is one. 8 pieces of paper. Someone between those 2 individuals once again had to be skillful or something. A psychologist, somebody that delves in behavioral sciences need to in fact investigate the mindset of whoever specifically plotted and planned that. Because if it took 8 pieces of paper, that's to say, is that above average or below average? I allow you, the viewer, to decide on that deciding factor. 8 pieces of paper. That sounds almost like a very bright-minded individual to use 8 pieces of paper, is what I'm trying to say. More could have happened and worse. And possibly administration involved staff and teachers' lives with that. As in, the plot and the plan was to be off campus. That's what I said before, and yet it could have possibly happened on that school campus. Principal. The taking down of individuals, right? So both students each face 9 counts of conspiracy to commit murder and 3 counts of conspiracy to commit kidnapping. All of this, once again, is in the sheriff's office report. The school is held accountable, and this is in fact what the school themselves stated. The school is held accountable for the wording of both students. I say both and not just one. See, because one could have, when it comes to being legible, one student could have in fact written everything out, but to throw a scheme together like that is to say both. So yes, the school is held accountable for the threats of the wording of both students, and such was stated by Andrew Lethbridge, Highlands County School System Deputy Superintendent. That in fact must be stated in the way, in the manner that he did, with the intention, because to say that the school is held accountable, the school is in fact putting the view on themselves, but just as much taking the view off of themselves. They want the school, they want the public to know when students do stuff like that, it makes the school look bad. That's why you have a superintendent come out and say something like that. Things like that. Something like that. That's hip talk for those that don't know. Something like that. Cool talk. You in fact want to come out and say that there could be liability held in that too, is why a superintendent that's why students shouldn't do certain things like that. You take that stuff, that mess, and you take it elsewhere with that. As in, if you're gonna have a folder, you don't hide it within the school. All that points to liability, as in a school system, and the rest as in lawsuits, possibly by other parents you just don't know. Some people hop on bandwagons to sue people, right? Because to not know the intention of the students, even with the involvement of what could have possibly been the outcome, is to say no, nobody would want to work there. After that, you don't know. And you don't know how long these individuals are going to in fact be in jail with that. There's a lot of angles that you can go, yes, at a story like this. In which I'm not, because I will be here all day saying, well, it could have happened like this. The students could have, say, been placed, yes, arrested, placed in jail, possibly come back years later, however that situation would have happened, and shoot up the school like a Columbine. That's why it helps to be a forward thinker and not a backward thinker, where you're able to see, well, what's the likelihood of this? How could this happen? How could that happen? And portray it in the light to viewers, right? I want you viewers to leave me a comment in the comment section and tell me what you think and sense believe could be the outcome, or could have been the outcome. Because to be arrested and have counts added to you, criminal records and all that, is to give teens something to think about. And sometimes that can even make a mindset even more worse than what it is. I'm thinking and sensing maybe these two individuals could more likely be thinking it out, as in not want to go along the criminal path and route. See, that's why sometimes we humans can misjudge. We can say, well, men tend to be more violent than women. Women do this much than men. Women like to fight more than men, or whatever. I view humans, I'm guilty of that sometimes, misjudging people, right? And yet it is best to view humans on a human level, as in knowing we all the same. There's a possibility, not completely a possibility, but you don't never know which gender is prone to do what and for what reason, right? Because in society you will view that as in a masculine role and not a feminine role. Just like I'm sitting on this camera, when I say investigation discovery, like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. ID, in fact, is a demographic. If you don't know what that is, Google that. Demographic means a wide audience that tunes in. Audiences that tune in by ages, location, as well as sex more than anything. More females tune in to Investigation Discovery than they do to Discovery Channel, and more males tune in to Discovery Channel than they do Investigation Discovery, right? And yet it's a wide, I can't get to the proper terms in which I'm trying to say. There's a view, because all this almost points back once again in the direction of going Columbine, in a sense. Because to not know the outcome is to say, well, who were the individuals that shot up Columbine? The school. Who was those? Were they male or were they female? Okay, so who are these two individuals doing this sort of the situation? Plotting and murder. They're in fact female women. So when it comes to even media and the portrayal of the light of who's doing what and the reason why, sometimes the numbers can be skewed. Yes, with that. That's a hip term as well. Skewed. Skew. However you choose to say, right? But sometimes the numbers are not specifically, not those numbers, but when it comes to murder and mayhem, sometimes the numbers aren't completely placed out to media specifically. The point, to be more objective, the point of mass media is to keep everybody in their place, right? Never think that more men can do this more than women when it comes to crime, and being very specific. Anybody can do anything at any time of the day. But when it comes to media, mass media outside of Discovery, when it comes to the news, there's a dividing nature in that, and many people don't know that the social structure in relation to keeping everybody divided, why some people question racism. Well, why don't they show as many white males being killed by police than they do black? There's in fact a narrative. It's called Keeping Order. That's in fact, there's no other platform on this earth to keep order. Not New World Order, not no NWO, not none of Illuminati. No, not none of that. It's a social structure. We, in fact, everything has to have an order and a name put to it so that you know that it's there, right? There's no platform bigger on this earth or this land or wherever that is able to do that but sight and sound. That's reading the newspaper, picking up something, inform, such as the news to inform you, or hearing it. That's watching video in relation to news and hearing it. Sight and sound are the only two things on the body which is able to take in and ingest information in relation to global affairs. That's why mass media is there. And yet there's no other tool, once again, that can be used to keep people in their place. Do you understand order? Mexicans, you go over there. Blacks, you go over there. Whites, you go over there. Asians, you go over there. That's to know, that's to let you know where everybody must in fact be and fit. How else? Now, I can't get with racism at all. I love and yes, can adore everyone, right? And yet, to be highly perceptive is to know what I just said, as in keep that in your mind. Always keep that in your mind and understanding, well, why are we being divided by media? I just said. And even media knows that people that are able to think for themselves, bright-minded individuals, they will understand what the narrative is and keeping people where they're supposed to be in order. When you walk in your house or anybody's house, usually depending on how chaotic a person lives, usually most individuals, the average, like to keep their house in order. It's the same with mass media. You got to know where everybody is what I'm trying to say. That helps prevent chaos. That helps prevent things getting out of line, such as the dropping of bombs and all the rest. Some people might say that might in fact fuel it. It can, when you create division using mass media to do that. It can in fact create division, but at least you know where everybody is. That's why it helps to be a thinker for self, knowing what is and what isn't, knowing what's the reason behind and what's the reason for. What else on this earth can be used to maintain order? Because you can't go anywhere. Even once a child is birthed and brought onto this earth, that child is in fact given a name at birth, so that there's an order of, okay, that is my child. That child belongs to me, right? That child might in fact be given a nickname, but nothing is much more, and there's nothing more further than the truth in what I'm saying. When a child comes out the womb and say, I got to give that child a name, because that child is going to be out in society once it gets older, and that child must in fact be identified. If I don't name that child can become lost. It's the same with the division, yes, in the land pertaining to media. If Asians aren't identified and Mexicans aren't identified and black people aren't identified and the list goes on, Indians and all the rest, it's to say they're just a people that's walking and roaming. And if they're dangerous, we ain't gonna know how to identify either group of any kind. Racist or non-racist, whatever, everything has to have identification. And if you're into diversity, like myself, as well as Discovery and so many other people that know how media in fact operates, it's to say you would in fact not overlook the fact that racism is there, but you won't play into it because you know where the narrative in fact comes from. You won't bow down to it in a sense, and you won't let it overtake your whole mind and your anger. Some people will see that racism is portrayed in media, and they let that overtake their whole life to the fact that they won't even become a success in life. Why would you do that sort of thing? There's in fact a ignorance with that. Ignorance. Because if you don't understand social structure and hierarchy, such as this is up at the top and this is at the bottom, however you see fit with that, it's to say that's with anything in life. That's with anything in life. If I go open my refrigerator, it's the same thing. The freezer is at the top and everything else, possibly fruits, is at the bottom, right? You got to understand structures and organization with that. Some individuals going to be repulsed by the fact that I said everything in this video, and they should, because even they are not thinking logically and factual with that. I got 2 dogs. Both of my dogs have to have names placed on them, and they have. Because what would I call them? We do know racism in fact exists. I know that sort of thing exists, right? And once again, I can't get into that. I have a bigger brain enough to know that I should in fact have a wide array of interest and substance to discuss outside of who don't like me because of my skin. Nobody has time for that. That's that loser mindset of focusing, well, they don't like me because of my, well, they ain't gotta like you. Or they don't have to like you. They ain't got to. I like that. That's more cool. Whoever don't have to like you, go sit amongst people that like you. Understanding, research, and learning. Going outside of what you've been taught. Because sometimes even what you've been taught since little, at birth, or whenever, is oftentimes limited. There's many of us that have been taught very great things, right? And yet it's in fact limited with that. It just is. I know how media works, the good, the bad, and all the rest with that. I know and understand, and I'm just touching on the surface level, and not even, I in fact know how celebrities work even more with that. And I'm not going to even go into detail with that. I allow whoever to figure that sort of thing out. But it helps to know, because all that is in fact behavioral science. Psychology as well as sociology, and if you want to play much more further and deeper, political science, as well as more than anything, political marketing. It all goes together as well. And yet it still comes back to, I can't use my hand. I can to hold a book or to hold a iPad, tablet, or my phone to read, and yet we take in. Perception is all about the 5 senses. All of it, perception is. And yet I can't take in information as well as verify it by just touch. I need sight and sound with that. That's why media is there. People a lot of times allow that to bypass their eyes. I can explain the top and the bottom on even the art of perception as how individuals perceive things and the reason why. Possibly the origin as well. Understanding that you don't just take in. There's in fact much more deeper to this than what I'm saying. You can in fact widen an individual's perception based off of what they either see or they hear. Radio, TV, whether it's heard or seen, right? Depending on how intense something is, depending on how something is intense or intensified, those can in fact widen the senses. That is in fact the point. Somebody might ask, well, how is that possible? The senses control anything. The senses control any and everything, as well as the brain more than anything. But to take in something that is too extreme, just to know it is going to not only wake you up fully, but you're going to feel, and even that's going to touch and tap on emotions and feelings. That's when you add psychology along with that, because to delve into the emotions is to say, well, What is now being controlled? Is human behavior now being controlled? Does that seeing that extreme, it goes back to even video games. Young males play video games. That's going to have an effect on how they perceive things in the world. Now, scientists, you got all type of people that study that. No, if he plays a video game, that's not going to have an effect on his behavior. Everything we do have an effect on our behavior. Even playing violent video games, depending on who says what, researcher says what, and why. Everything we do has an effect. Whether it's, you might not go out and kill somebody, but you might in fact become addicted to playing those video games. Understanding the art of science is right. But the person that can play, there's a perception. I'm drawn into playing this video game. There's a reason why, which could lead to addiction. It's the perception as you're watching and zoning in on this screen. There's a lot of visual nature going on with the screen while you're playing that video game. Your brain is in fact gaining a buzz from what is going on, all the action on the screen, because there's a brain stimulation which later sometimes leads to addiction, right? But it's still all about perception. Your hand in fact meets your eyes as well as your ears while playing a video game. It could be Mortal Kombat, it could be anything. That's not speaking bad about those games, no. But this is all going to connect in with the emotional level as well as feeling. You can either, in fact, it goes much more deeper than that. I can either be an angry, violent individual and go out and shoot, kill people, or I can sit down and play a video game, which is why it's been stated by scientists as well as researchers the reason for video games of that nature being there, because they said that all humans in fact hold aggression, and the way to tame that is by putting things there in relation to perception, taming aggression with that. Because if we didn't have things in relation to perception to tame our aggression, that's to say we could be out committing murders or something. Because remember, humans are in fact animalistic, aren't we? Some don't believe in that, right? Religious folks sometimes don't believe in that. Many of them in fact do. That's not to put them down, and yet it helps to know what are the ways through perception. Perception is a very deep topic. Maybe I'll move on and discuss that on another day for those who want to know. Perception, media, and the rest. Just because we're on the ID logo sits above, we're on investigation.com. Investigation Discovery. Why did I say that like that? InvestigationDiscovery.com. I'm sorry. Shouts out to Paula as well as Lieutenant Joe Kenda. Just because somebody tell you that you're black, such as media, mass media, not social media, no, mass media. Just because somebody tells you that you're black, or somebody tells you that you're white, or somebody tells you that you're Mexican, or you're above average or below average, or you're poor, or you're stricken in poverty, or you're too wealthy to be around poor folks, that does not mean that you need to stay there. That's once again a box to know where everybody is. I'm repeating this for the 10th time. You don't need to be sticking and staying where somebody else told you where you need to stick and stay, despite there being identification being there. Another reason for that, more than anything too, is because a lot of individuals don't know how to follow their own self. They don't know how to lead and follow and be their own example in life. So those sort of people might, yes, they not might, but have to be guided and directed by other individuals, which to media in fact serves that purpose. If you can't think for yourself and you're not bright enough to think for yourself, somebody else is going to have to lead and think for you. I see it all the time. People my age, people older than me, people younger than me, that can't think for themselves. They don't have the proper logic and reasoning. And a lot of that too comes from, I was going to say being sheep, but you can call it what you will. Leading and following, those individuals have never taken the time to use their brain. with that. That's not saying they're slow. That's not saying that they're dumbed down individuals. No, it's all how you're taught. If you're taught to stand on your two and lean on your own two, as in think on your own two, does that make sense? Proper logic and reasoning, using those skills, you're in fact going to be a wholesome individual and not incomplete. And you're not going to just tune into something and take it for face value. You're going to more likely question, well, why is that? People that learn to think for themselves do what I just said. Because media, once again, the agenda of people that don't know how to think for themselves and they follow, we are in fact going to lead those people so that we can maintain order and structure in society. That's part of the program, right? But people well thinking, such as myself and possibly many of you viewers out there that know and understand, that are hip to the game of mass media, will in fact know just because I am this skin tone or just because I'm like this or I think like that, that doesn't mean I need to stick and stay within that box. No, I can roam freely because I'm a free thinker enough to know I'm responsible for self and I don't need somebody else telling me how to think, feel, and perceive things. Helps to think logically. There's a lot of things that I know that I don't even say on this camera. I leave it alone. So when it comes to investigationdiscovery.com, we're once again on, yes, investigationdiscovery.com. The logo ID stands up in the far left corner. I said that before. Live now is Hometown Homicide. Unlocked episodes. For audio visual preview is to click the play button. Click right here. You can in fact click to the ad right there, right? I'm gonna have to make another video on this and get real specific, scientific, and logical with that over mass media, what I said. People need to understand, as in not be fooled with that. There's no proper terminology to say it. It just helps to drive all the way through, as in driving on home, right? No footballs involved. So, The Face of Evil, Season 1, Episode 1. You can ever had a stalker? That's what that was. You can in fact zoom through these, as in check it out for yourself. Yourself. I like my hip cool talk. I stick with that. To gain access, because this is in fact padlocked down, right? No jail bars involved with that. It's to gain access is to provide your provider who you're subscribed to, right? On last night. This is exclusive. That's the only way to gain access. All these with the locks in fact are. Come back to this yourself to see what is good with that. These are all the same thing. ID Go Original Series. Have a tip. Shouts out to John Walsh with that. Crime Feed News. Crime Feed News. To gain access to the crime feed is a click right within here, and you would in fact be directed to the outside to the crime feed. Crimefeed.com. For the latest, greatest mayhem. Murder. With that. To receive a newsletter is to type your email address in and click next, and you would in fact receive a newsletter from Investigation Discovery. It's own. Not own. Investigation Discovery's own. So I think that's all to be said for now. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think and feel about this situation involving these teen girls. Do you think teens are getting worse? Last night I was watching a video. I should make a video about that, shouldn't I? About teachers. More teachers are quitting. Search all across YouTube and you will see there's multitudes upon multitudes. Or is it fortitudes? Multitudes upon multitudes of teachers that are quitting their jobs, which is going to be in question when it comes to the future. Who are going to be the teachers? They're quitting because a lot of kids are out of hand and very disrespectful, very disrespectful, but more than anything when it comes to bureaucracy pertaining to administration and staff. More so administration and the work overload. That's been going on since the beginning of time. But the bureaucracy. My tongue tied today, bureaucracy. I always get tongue-tied during the first few videos. So yes, leave me a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think and feel about these teens. Stories and facts. Yeah, somebody did comment and said, you picked that most oddest, strangest stories. I in fact do. Because I'm an odd individual drawn to odd things, as in what is the reason behind that odd behavior. The psychology with that helps to pick up a psychology book from time to time. So I think that's all for the day, and I'm going, you guys.